You are a household name. For a generation of Kiwis, you probably epitomise the Warriors.
Going back to those early days, 95, and you talk about guys like Haitara Cassini and Stephen Kearney. It was really awesome, It was great to be a part of that journey. After a game of footy, you'd go back and you'd have a few beers with the opposition and that. And Alfie taught me a few tricks on and off the field.
Yeah, but he was renowned for throwing up before games. Were you a throw-upper at half-time of that?
Half-time, yeah, I know.
Was it every game?
Most games, yeah, I think it became every game. But to be fair, I haven't spoken about it a lot. Look, I'd give anything to give that try back for the win, the disappointment of losing a grand final. It's a different feeling. You got to look back on it and go, we had a good year. If only we might have done this differently maybe, or that differently. And because they're hard to do.
Yeah.
I had no desire to actually be the coach to take over. I just said, let's get us through this period. And because it was a tough time, Sean was on the verge of pulling the pin. I just said to Sean when I took over, I said, look, Sean, I just want to get you back home and play a game. Luckily enough, we got back home and we had a good win in our first game. Without a doubt, I'm very fortunate and lucky to be in a position. What's around the corner is what's around the corner. But I feel very privileged that I've been able to be in a position to live the life that I have.
I've sat here for nearly 2 hours not wanting to ask the question.
He's got to ask the question. I knew you were going to ask the question. You're going to ask the question.
Is it our year? This week on Between Two Beers, we talk to Stacey Jones.
Stacey is one of the greatest rugby league players New Zealand has ever produced. 261 NRL games for the Warriors, 46 tests for the Kiwis, the Golden Boot winner in 2002, the first and only life member of the Warriors, and now he's the assistant coach of the Warriors and head coach of the Kiwis.
And we cover it all in this episode, and it was a real privilege. Stacey doesn't do many interviews, and this was an incredible insight into the man. Humble, thoughtful, and funny. You're going to love this one.
This episode is also a special one for another reason. It's the launch of our new partnership with One New Zealand. They are a dream partner for us. We're incredibly excited about this. We're such a perfect fit on values, reach, and vibes. We believe that One New Zealand connects New Zealand, while Between Two Beers connects New Zealanders. And together, we are New Zealand's most trusted connection platform.
And Between Two Beers is also supported by TAB. Keen for more action on sports and racing? Download the TAB app or visit tab.co.nz to get your bet on. R18, bet responsibly.
We're also stoked to be dressed by Barkers. Head online to barkers.co.nz to find out more. Last thing before we get into it, we're on a mission to become New Zealand's most trusted storytellers. If you enjoy the podcast, it would mean the world to us if you subscribed or followed wherever you're watching or listening. It genuinely helps us grow, attract bigger and better guests, and keep bringing you the best conversations we can.
Enjoy.
Stacey Jones, welcome to Between Two Beers.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me.
We're very excited to have you. Before we get into today's episode, we've got some big news. We are stoked to announce that One New Zealand is the new naming sponsor of the Between Two Beers podcast.
Yes.
One New Zealand don't do short term. They've been on the front of the Warriors jersey since 1999, starting out as Vodafone, then rebranding to One New Zealand, which is 27 years, the longest naming right partnership in New Zealand professional sport. So when they said they wanted to back this show, we took it as a pretty serious compliment. We're genuinely so proud to have them on board. One New Zealand connects New Zealand, and we like to think we connect New Zealanders, and it felt like a natural fit. And honestly, we couldn't have planned a better first guest under the new partnership, because in the first year of that partnership, the bloke wearing the number 7 was a kid from Point Chev called Stacey Jones. So 27 years later, you're still at the club, and so are they. So today, we're sitting down with the man who's been there for the whole ride.
1999, have you paid a phone bill since then? 27 years of free phone, surely.
Well, I moved away from France for a couple of years, and then
They would have done roaming.
Yeah, hopefully. No, but yeah, it's fantastic. They've been great supporters of the Warriors for such a long time. Firstly Vodafone, and then moving to One New Zealand, and they've just been fantastic people, fantastic supporters through the lows of the club, the highs. And just, what a magical relationship that we've had, and now you guys get to have it.
27 years we're aiming for.
Yeah, let's hope. Let's hope. Did it start with like a Nokia 3310, like a brick? And then,
look, it took me a long time to get a phone.
Really?
Like, I just felt, even when I was like my early days, I was like, I don't want people to ring me. I just whatever. And then I had to get one. I was just falling behind.
And now, like group chats, and you must have a team management chat, player chat. There must be chats all over the place.
So much going on, yeah. It's hard to keep up. You got to make sure your phone's charged, and like anyone, you just feel lost if you don't have it now. And all of our schedules are on there, and just got to keep up with it.
Would you say phones have been one of the biggest changes in the game since from when you were playing to now coaching? Like the whole social media aspect of it and dressing rooms and attention and stuff, it's got to be
out and about as well.
Yeah, look, to be honest, I'm not up to play with a lot of social media, but I see it. I see everywhere, all our coaches talk about it, our players talk about it. So we definitely have a rule in our club that we can't have phones in our meeting room. So
we learned that the hard way with the Chiefs. We took a phone in there last year, and it was very quickly got back to management. It's like, take that down, that goes out. This is our sacred space.
Yeah, 100%. And guys do get caught out. They do take their phones in there, and usually it's a shout of coffees for the coaches or a box of beers.
You came up through an era too of like characters in the 90s and 2000s where I imagine the game was a little bit more jovial, whereas now with everyone's camera phones and stuff, I guess the current day player has to be so careful of what they're doing out in public as well.
Yeah, very careful. Everyone involved in the game, staff and in particular the players. Like, it's just gone to the next level. And when we were playing, obviously phones were around, but video and all of that wasn't around in the social media side of it. So, you could live life a little bit freer. But now, scrutiny.
That space when you're in a group and no one's on their phone. I was just watching the Masters this week at Augusta, and they don't let phones in. And you see photos, and it's behind the golfers, and there's hundreds of people all paying attention.
Yeah.
So when you're in a team environment and your phones aren't allowed, it's quite unique in society, I guess.
Yeah, I get. We're just used to it now. Like, that's been the rule. When phones first came about, you just don't have your phone in the meeting rooms, and if they go off, you get punished. So,
what about it when you're overseas at team dinners and stuff like that? Is it phones away, so you have to chat?
It's been different over the years. I know a couple of years ago, Webby brought in a rule that we, weren't allowed to have our phones in dinner and that, and it didn't make the players have to talk to each other. But then, I think it got a little bit looser. So, but yeah, our boys are pretty good with it. The Warrior boys.
I was just thinking as well, when you were playing, it would have been autographs, and now it's selfies. That's the new autograph, right? Like, nobody wants a pen and paper and photos. It's like, can I get the photo with the guy?
Yeah.
Crazy. You've just had that flashed into my head just then.
They still get asked for autographs. Plenty of them.
I wanted to ask how you're feeling about chatting with us today, because you're quite a private person. But I spoke to Cam George yesterday, and he said he promised us you'd open right up. But I wanted to front foot. Yeah, how do you feel about sort of talking about your story?
Well, to be fair, I wasn't too sure about where we were going, what was happening. I was just turn up and have a chat. So
they sent you the message on your phone. You mustn't have checked it.
Yeah. Then I just walking in there and meeting boys, feel pretty comfortable. And obviously, Cameron George spoke to him yesterday, said to say g'day. So,
good.
When the boss says something, you sort of, okay, listen. So, he, thanks. I do feel very comfortable sitting here. And hopefully I can, talk as much as I can and fill you in.
That's a great seg, because I did talk to Cameron, and I want to read some stuff he said. I sort of asked him about you. And he said, in my view, he's the most beautiful human. Every time he speaks, he wants to do right by everyone. He cares about people on a level that I've been so lucky to see. I've lived with him through COVID. I've seen him make cakes with my 4-year-old daughter in the kitchen on a Sunday. And I've been out with him having a beer when people recognize him, and he sits down and he has a drink with them. He cares about people from all walks of life on all levels. Can you tell us about your relationship with Cameron? Is it like brothers? Is it like flatmates?
Yeah, he's a good liar. I've known Cameron for probably over 10 years now, and before he came into the Warriors, he became really good friends with the coaches at the time, Andrew McFadden, Andrew Webster. I was part of the lower grades. I think I was coaching the under-20s at the time, and got to know Cameron a little bit there. And then really when he became CEO of the Warriors, always had a close friendship with him, and then really became really close in COVID when we lived together for a year. And plenty of highs and lows through what the club was going through. And I learnt a lot from him. He's a person that, when he wants to get something done, he gets it done.
Yeah, we learned that first. I think he was on it. You were talking to him, and he was like in the middle of like firing off a message straight away. Like as he was thinking it, he was doing it.
I've never known a person that can just come up with this, a solution so fast around anything. Like even around player selection. Sometimes, like he goes, "You guys should do this, should do that," and we're like, "No, Cameron, we're not going to do that." And then we circle back around, and then we're like, "He's right." So, it's quite interesting because, he is very passionate about the game, but he also knows, he knows his boundaries as far as what we do.
And our episode indicated he's a hell of an operator as well. He's got to be one of the best CEOs in New Zealand sport going around.
Yeah, look, I don't know.
Can't say no way.
Oh, yes, yeah. He asked us to ask you that.
Look, him and the relationship he has with the owner, Mark Robinson, and Ortex and that, like, I just see how they get on and how they operate and do things. And Mark and Cameron have very similar traits as far as if they want something done, they'll get it done.
Cameron goes on. He said, Stacey is a creature of habit. And I can say that firsthand because I lived with him. His day always starts and finishes the same. He loves going to the Point Chev bowling club. That's his favourite watering hole in the world. And you'll often find him riding his push bike down the street to get there. The locals just love him down there. When we were living in Redcliffe, if he wasn't home, I knew where he'd be. He'd be at the front bar of the local sports bar with a couple of elderly gentlemen that just loved his time. And he loved it too because they treated him like a normal person and he became a local there too. So he's a creature of habit where if he finds something he feels comfortable in, he doesn't shift from it. And when he gets comfortable in doing something, he does it so well. Reminds me a lot of Seamus, actually.
Yeah,
I'm up from the same club.
Like I would have my pillars of my week. So Tuesday night would be quiz night, pizza night on Friday night. Like that is just how I operate. Are you kind of cut from a similar cloth?
Very much so. I mean, my father, he's a farmer up in the far north, and like he enjoys a beer on a Wednesday and a Saturday and a punt, and I'm a little bit the same, and I've got people around me that do the same right now, like Cameron and Webby and the other coaches. We all sort of have similar traits, and I think that's what my father was like, and my father's a hard worker with what he does, but I sort of probably get it from him more than anything.
Well, we're recording on a Wednesday. Is it a Point Chev bowling club day today?
It is. Hopefully my wife is, but she knows too. Like I got really good support from her, and she knows if I go down there to the local for a couple I call it the gym. I said I'm off to the gym.
How often are you working out these days?
Oh yeah, too much.
Were you part of the syndicate that won the Karaka Millions with Cam?
No.
He's got to get you in on that.
Yeah, I know.
Surely.
He gave me an opportunity to actually, and I said, look, I've got 3 or 4 with them that I've been part of, and I said, that's enough for me, Cameron, and I'm like, and then when it won, I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's not a bad one. Not a bad one.
Last one from Cameron. He goes on, he said, Stacey doesn't realise what a global superstar he is. He's that unassuming. I'm really good mates with Alan Langer, who is a global superstar, and I can tell you now, Stacey Jones is up on, if not beyond, that level. His career was unbelievable. Sadly, he didn't win a grand final, but he's once-in-a-century player and not just generation. He genuinely doesn't appreciate how big he was and how big his reputation is globally in sport. In terms of Kiwis that have reputations around the world, Stacey Jones's name would be known from France to Europe to Australia in all households. And that's amazing to me. Like, it's probably a hard one for you to answer, but do you understand the global kind of like love for Stacey Jones?
A little bit in the rugby league fraternity, but yeah, I mean, it's very flattering, and honoured when people talk to you, talk about you like that, and and he talks about Alan Langer, who I had a very good what do you call it, tussle with on the footy field, but off the footy field, going back to what you don't do these days, like after a game of footy, you'd go back and you'd have a few beers with the opposition and that, and Alfie taught me a few tricks on and off the field.
Yeah. Well, this has popped into my head again, but he was renowned for throwing up before games. Were you a throw-up at half-time of games?
Half-time, yeah, I know. I don't.
But was that like a nerves thing or an energy thing? Or
probably just it happened once, and then I think, oh, it's time to do it again. And then, it was just one of those things, just sort of take a breath and, probably took too much of a breath and then I had to go and,
Was it every game?
Most games, I think it became every game,
So it became
Ritual,
sort of
habit.
Ritual, it was a habit, there you go.
And when? Like, when in the half time?
Just before running out on the field. After the coach had spoken, then you'd talk to your units, and then before you run out on the field, just get rid of all the, the nervous energy inside.
Yeah.
I'd push back on just in the rugby league community as well, because you are a household name. For a generation of Kiwis, you probably epitomise the Warriors. Foundation player from 1995. People like me grew up watching you week in, week out. And I think really fondly back of those. That Hytrocasini is another name that pops into mind. So it's like a cult kind of status in New Zealand sporting history, which is not everyone has a video game named after them. Like there's Shane Warne, John Olomu, and Stacey Jones Rugby League. Those are the three that I can name off. So it is a pretty big cultural stamp that you have on New Zealand, which is an amazing thing too.
Yeah, look, going back to those early days, 95, and you talk about guys like Hytrocasini and Stephen Kearney and
City Solomona is another one.
Solomona, it was really awesome. It was great to be a part of that journey from the earlier days and seeing those sort of people who were, good mates of yours and the support that the club had, in particular individual players. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to insert myself here, like we have pinch me moments on the podcast. Like growing up, whenever you were playing rugby at the back, it was Stacey Jones. Like I was Stacey Jones as a kid. So it's really cool just sitting across from you now and sharing your story.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, I used to do that as a kid too. I used to be Clayton Friend or Gary Freeman, So.
But not too long, and then not too long after, you were playing with these guys as well.
You're pinching yourself. Yeah.
I do want to go back to the start. Your grandfather, Maunga Emery, played 23 tests, but his last one was 10 years before you were born, I think. So was it a big rugby league family?
Yeah, it was. My father played rugby, not at a high level, but he grew up playing rugby and that. And then he met my mum and then he had to play rugby league because of my grandfather. Look, it was always in the family. My grandfather actually played rugby union up until he was 28. So he moved to the league, quite late in his sporting career, and we lived in Ponsonby at the time, and Ponsonby was a strong rugby league club. So that was my first team that I played for. I got two older brothers, twin brothers, so I played in their team when I was like 3 or 4, and they were 5. So my memories of playing of those days was just picking daisies, on the field, and then. Fortunate enough that after a year or two, I just loved it.
Was All Blacks big too? Like, did you follow the All Blacks closely?
I loved watching the All Blacks. I mean, I love the Kiwis more, but I still loved getting up early hours of the morning when the All Blacks were playing overseas because my dad loved it, and who were the players? You look back in those days like Stu Wilson and Murray Mixty, Grant Fox. Those sort of players. Yeah, I loved watching the All Blacks play as a kid, because it's instilled in us. But, my passion more was watching the Kiwis, watching Olsen, Clayton, Mark Graham, Dean Bell, the Sorensens.
And cricket was a part of you.
I love cricket.
Have you got that right?
Yeah, I love cricket.
Has the Black Clash ever come knocking and asking you to play in one of those games?
No, I'll be hopeless.
I think a lot of the guys that do play in that say the same thing. Surely there's an opportunity.
Yeah, Sean played.
Yeah.
Sean played a couple of years. Yeah, look,
I'm always doing this as a plug for you to maybe try and get into the next team, but you never know where this might go.
We actually love our cricket. Yeah, I loved playing it as a kid growing up, backyard. So, back then it was, summer was cricket, winter was rugby or was league. That's all it was. It was nothing else. Now there's so much crossover with it. Like it goes in, the summer sport goes into winter, winter goes into summer. So, had a strong passion for it. And we always talk about it at the Webby, Rich Agar, the other coaches. Rich Agar, massive England fan. Webby, obviously, massive Aussie fan. And I'm obviously a Black Caps fan. So,
And when you were coming up, then the Warriors didn't exist. So was it Fox Memorial, local rugby league, and the Kiwis were the pinnacle? Yeah.
Fox was very strong. Like it was, going down to Carlaw Park on a Sunday afternoon, and you'd see, maybe half a dozen Kiwis run around for their local clubs, and you'd sort of get 2 or 3 games of footy on a Sunday afternoon, there'd be 10,000 people down at Carlisle Park, and it was just magic, you know. It was just, you know, and I remember as a kid, maybe as a 7-8-year-old, you'd get to play in a half-time game every now and then. So very, very good memories of the local game. And yeah, the Kiwis, you know. Back then they'd have quite a few mid-year tests against Australia. So I knew that they'd play State of Origin, and then they'd pick the Australian team from State of Origin, then the Kiwi team would play that team. So
got to bring back the Anzac Day test, don't we?
Yeah. Look, the game's just so hard at the moment. The schedule's so hard, you know, when you're filling in all these, you know, the Origin and, you know, the international game pushed back to the end of the year. And yeah, I mean, Anzac Day now is such a big game for the NRL. You know, they have all these fixtures like St. George playing, the Roosters, and, you know, obviously, we always played Melbourne, was a big day for us. So the NRL have a big day on Anzac round.
And sold out, I think, your game in Wellington this year on Anzac Day as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, outstanding, you know.
Stacey Jones at high school, are you winning all the athletics day events? Like, are you winning all the sprints, 100-metre sprint? You got that on lock?
I won a couple, yeah. I mean, yeah, I remember. At school I did, and then when you go to the championship, hopeless.
Yeah, because your burst would have been that sort of 40 yards, and then on the 100 you might lose a little bit on the lot.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. But to be fair, like the school I went to, St. Paul's, we were a very strong league school, but we only had 200 kids, so I was only probably racing against guys of my age, probably only 10 people, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And then, as I said, so no Warriors. Did you think about making a career and having to go to Australia to maybe ply your trade if you wanted to do that?
Look, that was a dream. Whether I was going to be a rugby league player or not, that was a dream. And then I think I was about 16, I think. And then the Warriors were accepted into the Australian competition, New South Wales at that time, a Winfield Cup. So that became, you know, my goal to be a part of that rather than the Australian thing.
Was there a plan? Was there a Stacey Jones that wanted to be a builder or I
don't know.
A lawyer?
Yeah, no, wouldn't be a lawyer. Look, I don't know. And again, I would have done something because I know the way my parents were, they'd always, you know, make you do something.
Presumably,
he's a farmer. Yeah, no, I wouldn't be a farmer. No way. But there was always that, get a trade, do this, do that, and, you know, that'll set yourself up. Fortunately, or unfortunately, I don't know how you look at it, league came around and then became full-time. But what I look back then, I wish I had done something, you know, like nowadays players get so many opportunities to go and do something else. You know, we give them time. Okay, go and do a trade here, or go and do like a degree here, and whether it takes, you know, 10 years, still get something. And I remember at the time, and I was studying at AUT over the shore, and I was doing like a diploma in sports science, and I think I lasted 6 months because the Warriors were becoming full-time the following year. And I remember the CEO, Ian Robson, at the time said, "We're going full-time next year, you got to push that aside." So I kind of wish they had to give me the opportunity to finish it and do that and not become full-time where, you know, all we did when we became full-time was train in the morning, play golf in the afternoon.
That doesn't sound too...
I know. It's great lifestyle. Yeah.
Before we move into Warriors, you mentioned your parents. What did you learn from them? Like, what are some of the traits that you got from them? And yeah, what was that sort of childhood like?
Yeah, very good. I had a really good childhood. Like we grew up around the Ponsonby area, Westmere, Grey Lynn. So I got to go to St. Paul's, a very small school, and a rugby league school, and then the club I played for, the Point Chev Pirates. So it was a really tight-knit group, and my mother was always part of the committee there and through the schoolboys, and my father was he was manager of the team at the time. So my parents, getting back to my father as a farmer, he moved back to the family farm about 20 years ago, around when I sort of retired or moved to France. So we grew up in Auckland, but they instilled just, you know, real good support. You know, I was very fortunate to have parents and wider family too. Like I had an auntie and uncle who I'm really close to, who supported me really well. And then obviously my grandparents were around quite a bit on both sides of mum and dad's parents.
Moving into, so the Warriors arrive in 95. You're a teenage kid rubbing shoulders with Dean Bell and Greg Alexander and Dennis Betts, and not a large guy, some big men. Like, what's 17-year-old Stacey like? Like, is there fear in that environment? Like, how are you feeling?
Yeah, very nervous. A couple of things, like looking back at it, really helped me out. One was I had a lot of players similar age to me who were coming through the same sort of system, and like all three teams trained together. So we had three teams. So we had our Colts, which is sort of like your under 21s, and then you had your reserve grade and your first grade team. But all three teams trained together. Like on a Tuesday night, all three teams would do drills together. You'd only split up on captain's run. Thursday we'd train together or train against each other. And then, it was only captain's run where you'd split up. So I was around a lot of people my same age as me. And then, and I lived in Point Chev, and around the corner who lived from me was Tia Ropati, So he'd always pick me up for training. So, he'd always call me young fella and that, and he'd get in the car and we'd talk about, not just footy, just things in general in life. And the first house I ever bought was Tia's house, so don't know if he gave me a deal though. But I felt comfortable with him going to training with Tia as a 17-year-old, and he'd, just make me feel, very welcome.
Were you a shy kid? Because I imagine going into an environment like that, especially the game, as I understand it in the 90s, was a bit different to what it is now. But did you take time to find your voice?
Yeah, no, I did. And I remember a game clearly. We were playing for New Zealand, actually, and we were getting hammered by Aussie. It was like 20-0 after about 30 minutes, and we're standing behind the post. And as a halfback, you got to be the person with the strong voice to get the team around. And I'd been lucky enough to play with Gene Namu, who was strong voice, and Matthew Ridge, very strong voice, and they weren't playing that game. And Quinton Ponga just grabbed me by the shirt, and he says, "I need you to effing well sort this team out, get us around the field." And I'm like, okay, either I don't do it and get a hiding from Quinton, or I do it and get his respect, And that was a moment for me. That was a moment for me on the footy field where I went, shit, okay, I have to stand up here. And I knew what I had to do, but I just had to express it and just go, okay, stuff it, I'm doing it.
I think you'd come in and you'd replace Greg Alexander, who was a marquee signing as a halfback, and then maybe 4 or 5 games into it, you'd taken the number 7 jersey. So that's really interesting that you'd played some club games, but it took to the international level before you grasped that. Yeah,
so it was Gary Freeman was the player we went away on a World Cup, who I took his spot, got given an opportunity. But the early year of 95, I got to play alongside Greg and learnt a lot from what he was about. Like, he was a class player, Greg Alexander, and what he'd done in the game. And again, he was one of those players that you grew up looking up to and go, wow, you're playing alongside this guy. And then what you learn from him is, you don't get experience like that.
Former All Blacks talk about when they get the phone call and then, they finally get named in the team. I think your debut comes in like round 5. But is that like that? Is John Money ringing you up and saying you're going to start, or how does that work?
Well, it was a different situation then. So the NRL team, the first grade team, would only name 15 players fresh. You could only name 15 players, and the reserve grade would always play before the NRL team. So if we were playing the Broncos, the reserve grade would always play before them, every team. And you had to play 40 minutes, at least 40 minutes of the reserve grade game, and then you were eligible to go sit on the bench for the NRL team. So they'd have their 2 fresh reserves, and then they could call up 8 players from the reserve grade and go sit on the bench. So I sat on the bench, apart from the very first game against the Broncos. Every other game after that, I sat on the bench. And then, it was round 5.
Like you and 8 guys, like looking around.
8 guys, we just said, but you could only use 4. So you'd always use the 2 fresh ones.
Yeah.
And then out of the 8, you could use 2 of them.
And any of them?
Any of them. Yeah.
Oh, so you're looking around going, it's going to be your turn today?
Yeah.
That kind of how
that's how it worked.
Oh,
so
wow.
I made my debut not knowing I was making my debut. So for the first, I didn't get on there for 4 games. Like I sat on there with 8 other guys, and the other 2 got to go, and I sat down and go, after the first time was, oh man, I might be charged. Second time, oh, I might be
Full kit and everything.
Full kit, everything.
And then hyped up, you're telling the family this might be it.
Well, I did. By the 5th time, I was like, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. And then all of a sudden, get the phone from the coach's box down. Stacey, you're on. Phil Blake.
Oh wow.
Or someone. Gene Namu got hurt. Yeah. And then I ran on the field for 5 minutes, and I actually come off the field because I got blood bin. I lasted 5 minutes. I pinched the try off Phil Blake. That day. He put a kick through, and he was about to dive on it, and then I jumped in front of him and scored.
Well, that's very different to, again, modern-day rugby league, where the coach calls the player in, I've got some bad news to tell you, and next thing it's reversed, and like you're getting your debut. So that sounds very different.
So that's how it worked.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how it worked back then. So I actually count my debut against Cronulla was 2 weeks later, that's when I got the call from the coach saying, you're going to be playing this week, starting. So I kind of feel that was my debut rather than that first one. But
And so you were 17?
18
when you made your prop debut.
Yeah.
In terms of belief, like, did you think, it might be hard to think back that far, but was there a time when you thought, shit, I'm actually really good? You know, like you go on to be the greatest we've had. Like, was it at that time, you're 18 years old and you're starting, are you thinking, I'm actually, shit, I'm pretty good here?
No, I never felt like that. Like, I always, try to back my ability, but the game's so hard. Like, you get confidence from players around you too, and what they do, but I never ever felt like I'm that good or whatever. I just thought, I've got to do something. I've got to do my job. That's how I looked at it.
Does it feel different when because if you're a halfback and you're controlling a game, like, what does that feel like? Does it feel like everyone else is in motion, or can you describe that?
I think there's a bit of the old cliche, really. Like, you can only do your job as well as you can if the guys in the middle are doing their job. And that's a natural. If your forwards don't dominate, then it's hard for you to do something. And I was very fortunate enough to play with some very good forwards, some very good players who I look in awe of what they did on the footy field. Those guys in the engine room, what they put their body through was just unbelievable. And the game's different now. It's different as in physicality, but what those players back when I was playing, and even like players before that, they went through it harder. How tough were the guys? Like I'm talking about my grandfather's era, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. I go, wow, how did they play the game and last that long?
Because you played 100 games, I think, unbroken from when you made that debut, 95 to 99. Is that good luck, or is that good management, or is that
just
street smarts?
Yeah, street smarts. Just don't tackle. Look, and then I broke my arm when I was playing for New Zealand, actually, and that stopped the streak. But I didn't actually know that I had that until I broke my arm. Yeah.
And then you always wore the.
Then I wore the guard. Yeah.
Because you were such a start, like 100 games straight from 95 when you started 18. It's not like a normal upbringing, right? Because you're famous from basically when you're an older teenager. So what was it like being so well known all of a sudden? Like, were there trappings of attention, or was it difficult for you at all?
If I look at what it's like now, what players, like, again, the scrutiny they have around them, like, we didn't have that. Like, the only scrutiny we had was probably the newspaper. Where that was the only thing we had to deal with. Like off the field, there was never any an issue for us. We felt we were just treated as normal people. I felt that anyway, and you try and treat everyone the way you want to be treated. So it didn't really bother me as much.
Did you still go to like Point Chev Pirates club rooms, even though you were playing for the Warriors? Did you still
every
stay
now
connected?
And then, every now and then. I fell away from them for a few years when it just became full on, like it really did. For the first couple of years I was playing I tried to go back as much as I could, and then I sort of drifted away from that.
Well, Super League comes in, and all of a sudden everyone's pay packet goes 3x, 4x, right?
Yeah.
you're lighting up as well.
Well, I got a funny story with my one. Like, I just remember the the coach John Maney at the time. Like I was when Super League came, like it was sort of the real. It was coming before the Warriors had started. Like it was before early '95 was when Super League came. So I wasn't quite established, or I wasn't established, And they were signing all these players, and I remember it was 2 weeks into the first season '95, and John Maney tells me and there's two other, I think Joe Vargana was another one, to go to this hotel and you're gonna meet this guy, and he just said, don't miss the boat on this one. And I think my sign-on contract with the Warriors, first one was like $3,000, and then it went from $3,000 to $65,000. Yeah.
You said wow at the wrong time.
Yeah.
3,000.
I was thinking 3,000 is like, that's hardly anything.
Yeah,
Holy
$3,000
shit.
to $65,000. But I hadn't played any first grade footy, and then I think if I had waited sort of maybe a couple of months, and when I had started playing footy, it might have been 200,000.
Oh, far out.
So I got a phone call actually. Yeah, about a week later, actually. It was a week later, from Graham Lowe, who was coaching the Cowboys, and he said, Stacey, do you want to come to the Cowboys? And, the offer was...
Eye-watering.
Was a lot more than the 65. So from 3 to 6, and I'm like, look, I'm signed with I want to be here at the Warriors.
But that's a loyalty thing, because do you fall in love with the Warriors and the Warriors brand from the get-go?
The Warriors brand, but look, that and I just love living here. I'm, living in New Zealand, you just got everyone that supports you around you, and that I had really no intention to go to another team in the Australian comp. But I did eventually move later in life to France. So.
Were there other, outside of the Cowboys, were there other approaches through your career?
Yeah, I had approaches. Nothing in concrete though, but I had approaches, but fortunately for me, the club had always re-signed me. So if I was off contract the next year, we'd negotiate a contract. I had a really good manager in Peter Brown, who manages quite a few of the boys now, and he was very good for me. And Pete would go to the club, and the club would meet, and then we'd get a deal done reasonably quickly.
So Warriors in '99, it was bought by Tainui and Graham Lowe, and then went broke, and Eric Watson bought them in 2000.
Yep.
You were the first player to re-sign under Eric Watson, one of 3 foundation players. Was that was sort of Monty Beetham and Logan Swan were the others, right?
Yeah. I don't think it was Logan. It was a lot of the young guys. So it was definitely Monty. And I remember it was such tough times. Like, we weren't being paid for 2 or 3 months there at a time. And everyone had mortgages and bills and whatnot, and the club were coming back, you'll get paid.
TRO party chasing you for that payment.
TRO party, yeah, he was chasing me, right? So it was a difficult time, really tough time, and the club was broke, and there was no money going into it. And I remember meeting with Matthew Ridge and Eric Watson at the time, saying, look, we're going to go in and try and see if we can get the club sorted and buy the club, but we were also having meetings internally, and the internal meetings were always like, yep, we're going to get paid, you're going to get paid, and it'll happen, and then next month come and nothing would happen, and it was really frustrating at the time. And it was at the end, the season had finished, and we were going to the World Cup, and we had a meeting as a group, and I'm not going to go into the detail around the meeting, but the meeting went like, let's all stay together on this one. But this was coming from certain people at the time, and again, I was relatively young as well, and I had a lot of players coming to me talking some advice. What do we do? And then we were like, okay, I feel like you just got to look after yourself here, number one, and because we've been promised so much and nothing had been delivered. So when the club disbanded, I signed with the New Zealand Warriors at the time, Logan, and then a lot of the influx of the younger guys came through, and a couple of the older boys moved on, and that because there was no club. Like everyone had to get something sorted, and nothing was being sorted with the old regime at the time. So very fortunate that the club were able to survive a tough period.
I think other players that were around in that period talk about like gym equipment was being, so you come back to pre-season and there's like not even footies.
Everything had been taken. Yeah, we had nothing. Daniel Anderson was the coach, and I remember meeting Daniel for the first time, and I didn't even know what Daniel looked like. I walked into the gym. There was nothing. There was no equipment.
Oh, he was at the Point Chev bowling club as well.
Yeah.
That's pretty good for you.
I know. Yeah, that is good. That is good, James. He was dressed like he was at the bowling club because he had beach shorts on and jandals and and then met Daniel, and first thing he said to me, he goes, I just need to teach you how to tackle. So look, it was a tough time, and we got through. We signed. That's when we signed Kevin Campion. Ivan Cleary was at the club at the time, and he re-signed. And then we had a real good influx. Well, not like they were there for a couple of years, but guys like Sione Famuina, Mutu Tony, Ali, Clinton Torpy, Francis Malley, Henry Farfully. So we had all these young kids coming through, and then we had a mixture of like myself, Arwen, Mark Tukey. We managed to sign PJ Marsh and had a good crust of that, those sort of mid-20s players, and then we had the older guy of Campo and Ivan. So it was a really good balance of players.
And the identity almost changed as well, because that's when Monty started throwing hands, not necessarily like deliberately, but and Campion came in, and it was sort of like not pushovers anymore. No. And almost the aggressors in games too.
Yeah. We became a real physical team. And, again, with Monty, what he was known for, and who was us? Villasanti, Jerry Susu. So we had sort of guys that didn't take a back step, and they were willing to lead from the front and look after everyone in the team. In particular, Campo. Campo was a weapon for us. Like, he was just so simple around how he did things, but so aggressive.
He's still a club ambassador, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
I guess that speaks to the legacy that he left behind.
A huge legacy he left. Campo's got a really good relationship with everyone at the club. In particular, like our owner Mark and Cameron, and he comes to the club 3 or 4 times a year, Campo, and he's got a lot of respect.
And what was your role? Were you like a quiet leader that the sort of the Māori and the Pacific Island boys kind of gravitated towards?
Yeah, I was sort of because I had a really good relationship, hit it off with Campo straight away. So me and Campo, we were co-captains of the team that year. And look, we just hit it off. Our wives got on really well. Our kids were similar age, so we're doing things a lot off the field as well. And Ivan the same. Our wives were really close, and so we had a really tight knit group. And then my wife, she's Samoan, so she had a really good relationship with the younger Polynesian partners of the players in the club. So yeah, I felt like me and Arwen in particular were sort of the sort of who had a really good relationship with everyone in the team.
I feel like in every interview you do, you get asked about the 2002 final, and you get asked about your incredible try and the heartbreak of defeat, which we're building into. Do you get sick of talking about it?
To be fair, I haven't spoken about it a lot. Not in a detailed way at all. And look, I'd give anything to give that try back for the win. It was a good moment for us, and we hit the lead at the time, and we were right in the game. But the disappointment of losing a grand final, it's a different feeling. You got to look back on it and go, we had a good year, a relatively successful year from where the club was. We'd made a playoff the year before, but before that we hadn't achieved much as a team, and we should have achieved more. And we probably did it with a good team, but probably not a team that everyone expected for it to happen to. And we got the minor premiership, and we got it because the Bulldogs lost all their points. They I think we're ordered the salary cap, And people say you only, made the grand final too because the Bulldogs weren't there. But I look at it differently because we had it. Bulldogs won 18 games in a row, and there was only one team that they feared, and that was us. We had it over the Bulldogs. So I feel if the Bulldogs stayed in the comp, we might have played them in the grand final and maybe. Yeah. But yeah, look, that whole week of the grand final went like a blur. It was big excitement around everywhere, in particular in New Zealand, and yeah.
Is it underestimated? Because you played Cronulla, I think, in the semi, and then do you come home and then have to go over again? Do we underestimate how taxing that trans-Tasman travel can be?
Yeah, it's very, very hard, but I guess the emotion, you have all the emotion and all that around it, so it sort of balances itself out when you're coming home to all your family and friends and your supporters of the club. That gives you that bit of boost, and then we were back for 2 days and then had to go back for the grand final formalities and all of that.
Breakfast and press conference and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Are you able in that week to get on the training field and still do your core role?
Yeah.
Or do you get swept up in...
It's different because you got to do all that, but so the Roosters had to do all that stuff too. So it goes hand in hand. But look, we were able to do our normal stuff as much as we could. And yeah, look, the week just went so fast, went very fast. It was just, and even the game went in the blink of an eye and it was over. And then, following week we had to back up for a test match.
I wanted to ask about the night before, because I remember this 2002 wave, the whole country, everyone was watching that game and tuning into it. So as a player, one of the star players, the night before that, are you feeling different to other games?
Yeah.
Are you not getting sleep? Are you feeling more nerves?
You know what, it was such a long time. I can't remember what the night was like before. I'd imagine we would have been playing cards, in the team room. I remember they set the room up. They had video games in there. Usually you always have a ping pong table, but they had a pool table, they had a jukebox, they had just stuff to keep guys entertained really for the whole week that we were there. And I'd imagine we would have been playing cards. I would have been playing cards with Arwen against Torpy and Wairangi Kopu, and we would have been cheating. We always cheat when we play cards. Well, he cheats Arwen, so it would have been something like that.
Yeah, and then the result doesn't go your way. What's the aftermath? You've got the test the next week, but in those hours, in that day afterwards, what do you remember?
Good. Again, because the game finished really late. By the time you get back to your hotel, and we'd organised the family and friends sort of get together at the hotel, and then by the time it's comes around really quick. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, Monday morning, and we're thinking, right, okay, we've got to start getting ready, get on a plane to go to Wellington for a test match. So we go back to Auckland and see the fans and that was pretty cool. But yeah, it just everything happened so fast, so we didn't get a chance to actually sit back and reflect, and then we had a lot of us had a long tour to the UK as well, so we never and then we didn't come back to the Warriors until January, a lot of us. So we had to start thinking about a new year there.
Nomad Monday?
Nomad Monday. Yeah, not for us. I think there was maybe 10 of us that were picked for the Kiwis. So we went to Wellington on the Tuesday. We had a Monday but that was with the fans and that, and a couple of beers at the club, at the ground, and then flew to Wellington that night, and then got ready for a test match, and then played on the Saturday, and then flew out to the UK on the Sunday. So there was not a lot for us to reflect on at the time and get through it. And then we come back in January, and Campo and Ivan had finished then, so they couldn't give us a good debrief of the whole campaign, the year, and so it was a bit frustrating looking back at it.
Does that team ever get together and have a drink and talk about it, or you just prefer to leave it in the past?
Yeah, no, we haven't. And no, it's not that we prefer to leave it in the past. I think just we haven't had that opportunity to do it, and maybe something we should organise.
There we go. Let's get it going. We'll host.
Yeah.
Would you describe that season though? It did click. The support, New Zealand, everyone was behind it, winning the games all the way to the final. Yes, you didn't get the result, but do you look back at that as your happiest season or your favourite time playing rugby?
Yeah, I think so as far as playing goes, and it was a big year. Like
You were named World Player of the Year that year as well, right?
you got the Golden Boot that year, so that was something that was very special, and I was honoured about. But yeah, look, I think looking back, it was, but again, I feel like you don't get many opportunities, and in life, and in particular like the sport that I played in the NRL, and you look back at it with, if only we might have done this differently maybe, or that differently, and because they're hard to do.
Yeah.
We normally go hunting for stories on the guests that we've had, and our man that we were told, Owen Gutenbiel, who has all the stories on Stacey Jones.
Yeah, plenty.
Well, he went MIA. So I don't know whether you got to him, Rochelle got to him, or someone got to him, but he wasn't able to provide us with anything. So by proxy, all we can do is ask for your version of a couple of the stories that he shared on the podcast on your behalf. So I want to take you to I think it's the All Golds tour in 2007. And he told a story which has become our most viral social media clip about when the team did the haka in Buckingham Palace for the Queen.
Yeah.
And the punchline of the story is, I think Clinton Torby had been and got royal teaspoons. They were in his pocket. They were jingling around, did the haka jump.
Yeah.
When he landed, the teaspoons fell on the ground. He shoots a look straight at the Queen and says, "What? You stole our land?" Now, you're in the room.
Yeah.
How much of that story is fact, and how much of that story has some GST added for good value?
There's a bit of GST. Owen always adds GST. He makes it sound good. He's a good storyteller, Owen. But the teaspoons, that happened. Don't know if Clinton said that to the Queen. I'm pretty sure he would have been thinking it. So, but yeah, it happened. I think, I wasn't one of them that took the spoons, by the way. There was a few others in there. But yeah, it happened, but I don't think he said that.
All right, I want to fact check another Owen Gutenbiel story.
Hang on, is there anything that like Buckingham Palace meeting the Queen? Is there anything that sticks out to you?
Kind of brush over that.
Interesting?
Yeah. No, not really. It was a surreal moment. Like just going there and meeting, being in that environment and that. So yeah, it was pretty special.
All right, fact check a second Owen Gutenbiel story. This directly relates to Stacey Jones on his his episode, which was Super League years. There's a function in Canberra.
Oh, I can see that.
You had a couple of scoops and gone up to one of the game's immortals and asked him about his eyebrows.
Oh, look, there's GST added to that, but there was some sort of story in the end. It's not a proud moment of mine, but no, but Owen did probably add a bit in that too, because he was my partner in crime. He was with me. Greg Alexander was with me. Sid Eru, Hytro. Yeah, it was not a proud, funny moment, but
have you spoken to Mal Meninga afterwards?
Plenty of times.
Okay,
plenty of times.
The last one I think is, again, GST must have been added. This is Joey Johns telling a story. I think your 200th game for the Warriors, and the club had got a whole bunch of Stacey Jones masks made for the crowd. The Knights, I think, won, and he's caught in a nightclub in Auckland with a Stacey Jones face mask on, dancing on the D floor.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's totally right. It was my 100th game. And we won, actually.
Yeah, details.
Yeah. So we actually beat them comfortably. I didn't play that well. We beat them 40-0, and actually I didn't play that well at all. John Simon killed it. Jason Deeth killed it. And yeah, so they made these masks, and me and Arwen have gone down to, I think it was the Loaded Hog. It was the yeah. And there's Joey in the middle of the dance floor with my mask on. I had a lot of fun with him over the years. Like, he was such a player to play against that was, you're in awe of what he did on the footy field, and then off the footy field too, he was a laugh.
It sounds to me like those times were quite jovial, and they, again, I referenced the footy show and Sports Cafe. It seemed like a very different time to what it is now, where characters got on very well off the field.
Yeah, 100%. Like everywhere you went, like there'd always be, okay, where's the place to go to? We got to, and you sort of had to go and see them and catch up, win or lose. You go to, and there'd always be an area cordoned off for the teams to enjoy each other's company, and Yeah, but some great memory. Like again, Alfie Langer, Kevy Walters, the Canberra boys at the time. Some great memories.
Is it not the same now? Maybe because like professionalism has come in, and so players aren't drinking as much as they used to, or at all. So that culture is built around getting together and having a few beers. And if you're not doing that, it's kind of not the same.
The game's just gone to another level. Like the speed of the game, the professionalism, the physicality of it. Players just can't afford to do that anymore. And in particular, when there's short turnarounds of games, you have 6-day turnaround. Well, you're getting ready for next week. You got to get your body ready because everything's so hard now. Like training is that physical. Like, you call it your G2, which is 2 days out from a game, and sometimes it's a G3, 3 days out from a game. Their game intensity,
full contact,
and not for 80 minutes, but for a period there, we have to get ourselves ready for the game. And sports science says the best way to prepare for a game is to bash each other up 2 days out from a game, 3 days out from a game, and that's why you just can't put your body through having too much of a good time, and take my hat off to players these days. They do it pretty good.
Carver? Because Ruben Wiki introduced Carver as a recovery, but also as a connection piece. Is that still floating around somewhere out there?
Yeah, I think it does. Not so much with our boys, with the Warriors. They're pretty, they don't do the Carver. Actually, our boys are pretty good. Like they'll still have a couple of beers in the team room, and but they're pretty good with it. Fish captain and Barney, they lay down the law and are pretty good with that. So
I'm smiling because I just remembered I went to Fish to ask if there were any Stacey Jones stories. He said, "Nah, bro, I don't have too much other than me and him are the only two standing at the end of a night." Read into that what you will.
Yeah. Oh, look, he's when Fish has a drink, he enjoys it. And again, when you don't get much out of him.
Yeah, that's true. We've tried a couple of times. Cameron George, he came back. I guess you don't come back with too much on the boss.
Nah.
Well, yeah, alongside the Warriors was also the Kiwis. So international career, 46 tests stretching from 95 to 2006. Can you tell us about the jersey presentation the night before your debut in 1995?
Yeah, again, I don't really remember a lot. And jersey presentations back then weren't as big as what they are now. Like, we make a huge emphasis on someone making their debut, where I feel like back in the days it was just coach gets up or captain gets up and gives you the jersey. Yeah. So I remember it wasn't such a jersey presentation. My jersey was given to me. I come back from training and it was laid out on my bed. And it was, "Congratulations, Stacey, here's your Kiwi Test jersey," so that's when I got it. But then when we have our team dinner, they read out the team and, coach shakes your hand and that. So
do you put it on? Do you try to make sure it fits?
I think I slept in it.
So that's how much it means to you to receive that first one?
It was brilliant. It was outstanding. It was a dream come true. Playing for the Kiwis was, again, growing up watching them, it was, special.
Because that was the story, right? From Frank Endicott sort of walking past your door and seeing you in your jersey the night before the game.
Oh, did he say that?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So you weren't wearing pants, just But that's at the 95 World Cup. And I think the next day you played Tonga. Again, I'll bring Owen Gutenberg into the story and tell me if this is GST as well. But he reckons in the game he's pulled your pants down. He did. He pantsed you in the game.
He pantsed me in the game. I was getting up to play the ball and he just...
and things weren't going well in that game either.
No, we were very lucky. My debut could have been a disaster had it not been for Matthew Ridge's boot.
And fast forward, Tonga now one of the powerhouses in the game as well.
Yeah, unreal what they've been able to do to the international game. It's them, Samoa, Fiji, Cook Islands, more so Samoa and Tonga, have done wonders for the game.
Just on international rugby league, have you ever been up to Papua New Guinea to play?
You know what? I haven't. Yeah.
Wow.
I've played against Papua New Guinea only in New Zealand, but no, I haven't had.
You want to see a love for the game? Yeah. You go up to Papua New Guinea. It's insane.
Yeah.
Just how much people love rugby league.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting when they come into the NRL. It's just going to make the international team much stronger. So exciting.
So in 2005, you come out of 2-year sort of international retirement to mastermind the greatest result in Kiwis history, which is the 24-0 demolition of Australia in the Tri-Nations, which ended their 27-year winning streak in tournaments football. What was that period? How come you were away and why did you come back?
Yeah, I remember at the time I was at the Warriors and Daniel Anderson was, he was the Warriors coach and Kiwis coach. And we were playing a mid-year test and I'd been struggling with a groin injury and Daniel wanted me to play. I didn't want to play. I just said my body's not up for it. I just feel like I'd had the injury before and I knew that I needed an operation on it and to keep things amicable at the time, we decided that and I sort of thought I'm probably done with international footy too. So I just said, look, I'll just put my hand up here and just say I'm retired from the game. So it was a bit of a relief for me that I'd made that decision. I had no intention to go back and play for New Zealand. I felt I'd done everything I could at that time, and I needed to get my body right. I needed to get it right for the Warriors. And if I continued playing rep footy, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So 2 years, it was 2 years that I stopped, and then Brian McLennan became the coach, and Brian rang me up and said, Stacey, I'd really like you to reconsider coming out of retirement and playing for the Kiwis. And I was like, Bluey, I'm done. Like, I made my decision and I'm comfortable with it. He's like, yep, okay, no worries, Stacey, and that. And then a week later, he rings me up again. I'm like, Bluey, no. He keeps ringing me. I said, flipping out, how am I going to get this guy off my case, And then I thought about it, and my body was feeling good, and he said, look, Stace, can you just play these 2 games, because we don't have an out-and-out halfback, just for 2 games. And then Ruben rang me, and Nigel Wagner was on to me. So these players were saying, look, can you just play these 2 games, one in Australia, one in New Zealand, because then they were going to the UK. And I was moving to France the following year. So I thought, okay, I'm done with the Warriors. I'll talk to my coach in France, a guy called Steve Deacon, an Englishman who was the coach there. And he said, look, Stacey, if you want to do it. We'll support you whatever way you go. And I guess with Bluey's persistence, I ended up saying, yeah, okay, let's do it. And then we won the first game. We lost the second game. We went to the UK, and I had to go to France anyway. And then I played 1 game there, and we beat England over there, or Great Britain. And then I had to come home, actually. That's why I had to come home for the birth of my son. And I'd already promised Rochelle, my wife, that I would come back for the birth and that. And then we'd pack up and go to France. And then Lance O'Hire was the backup half. He got injured. He was injured, and then Bluey said, Stace, can you come back and play this game? So I was in France at the time, and they did all the... Peter Leach, he was our footy manager, the Mad Butcher. Yeah. He organised Air New Zealand planes and all of this for business class for me to fly back to New Zealand and then back to the UK for the game. And
that's a hell of a manager.
Yeah. Oh, great manager. Yeah, he was fantastic. So Peter Leach, again, someone that I just hold up with so much regard in my footy career and life in general. So
what does he bring other than meat and enthusiasm?
He just brings love to everyone, like the advice he'd give you, if you're having a tough day, you had a tough day on the footy field or whatever, he'd put things into perspective. He'd always put things and just cheer up, and he'd give you a bit of confidence. And I just remember, I remember one day, I think I had a bad game and walking in the change room, and Butcher said to Daniel, and don't you effing well give him a hard time, Stace, So he just had your back. Yeah, just someone that was just, look, I've had so many memories and I've got plenty of stories about him too, with us together. Yeah, magic.
He's one of those sort of cult figures in New Zealand sport. We need to get him on the podcast, and we're going to come to you for stories. Yeah.
Oh, got plenty, because we share a birthday, we're a day apart. So he took me out for my 21st birthday up in Parnell, and we had a massive night. This was when you could do things like that. We were training the next day. So he's smart, Butch. He invited the coach and the captain to it. So it was just us. Greg Alexander, and not John Money, Frank Endicott was the coach at the time. So he came and he bought me 21 presents. All little things like a Mad Butcher doll, here's your first present. Yeah. And I think it was a 6-pack of Lion Red was in there.
Good.
So, but look, getting back to the Kiwi stuff, it was a great time to be a part of that team. And I was very fortunate that that Bluey allowed me to come back for the final.
Yeah, on that. So like, what a series of events to get you back, and then you do, and you win 27-0 against Australia. Like, is that one of the defining moments of the career as well?
Oh, 100%. Like, it's a memory that will last forever, and I was very lucky, very fortunate that, I had Bluey that was persistent on me. The players allowed me to do it. Like, players, allowed me to go home and come back. Like, I was very lucky.
And then at the end of 2005, after 238 games for the Warriors, you leave for the Catalan Dragons in France. Why did you go there?
I just felt like I needed a break from here. And the coach there, or assistant coach there, had been part of our setup at the Warriors, a guy called Paul Donkin. He was like our footy manager, but he went to France. He wanted to be a coach, and he became like an assistant coach over there. And I had a good relationship with Donkin. He rang me up and said, would you look at coming here? And then I did a bit of homework, and the wife did a bit of homework, and I thought, wow, this is a cool place, like, and a culture change. And my children at the time were at the good age to go over there and do a little bit of schooling and that. And then I had another good friend of mine who was playing there at the time, and Alex Chan, a Kiwi boy, and and it was great. We did 2 years, and it was just a very similar culture to New Zealand culture, the French, where they're very family orientated and really tight, and I loved it.
Was that eventually what brought you home, though? Was that you? Like, I've heard you say how much your family means to you. So was it the pull of being back here?
We were always coming home. Once we knew we'd done our time over there, like, I signed 2 years, and then they asked me to stay for another year, and I was like, I'm an art, and I said, look, now I need to come home. It's time. I've done my time here. I've enjoyed it. Family have enjoyed it. The kids are at an age now where they probably need to get back to schooling in New Zealand and settle down and just start a new chapter in our life.
Because have we got it right that you dip your toe into coaching, but then the lure of coming back and playing came up again? You did one more year?
So when I came back to New Zealand, Ivan got me involved in a bit of coaching with the halves and just some general stuff, but with the younger guys coming through, and it was a couple of times a week, and then if they needed someone to fill in and run opposed against them, Ivan would always say, Stacey, can you jump in there and that? And then there was a conversation, I think it was about, a month to go in the season or 6 weeks, and Ivan said, look, I think you should consider coming back and playing. I'm like, Ivan, come on. And then he just said, look, no pressure. I was 32 at the time, and I knew that I'd done my time playing in France, ready to come home. And I didn't expect this to happen. But John Hart was a big part of that too, like the conversations around all of that, and he made me feel comfortable around it, that, there was no pressure on me to do it, even though there probably was, but not for me to feel it, and I look back at it, and I did the pre-season with Craig Walker was the trainer at the time, and I remember what I had to put my body through. Like, it was pretty tough. It was tough going, and I got myself in good shape, and I just sort of went from there, and I didn't expect to play as many games as I did.
23, I think.
I just expected to play a handful of games, and look, results-wise, it was tough. It was a tough year, it was the Sunny Fire year, so look, there was a lot of emotions within the team, and it was hard going at the time. But if I look back at that year for me, look, I have no regrets around it.
If you're open to it, can we talk about the Sunny Fire? Because, like you say, like what an absolute tragedy. But I understand like the messaging and the understanding and his. I'm not sure. You can describe it better than me, but it's still part of the club, and you still sort of address it every year. Oh,
it's huge, and I take my hat off to every coach that's been a part of since my time at the Warriors, since Sonny's passed. Like, in particular, the coach now, Webby, what he's trying to instill into the young guys, or the whole club around what Sonny Fire was about. Like, Webby didn't know Sonny, but he knows these are special things that we need to, have a good memory of him. And, he always gets a few of the old boys back. Like, Webby's got really good relationship with Russell Packer and Ben Matalino with their time at the Tigers and Webby's time at the Tigers. And those two were Sonny's best mates. And, we've been fortunate enough for Russell to come back and Ben to come back and share stories about Sonny, and for the players now to understand what he was about. Because, my memory of Sonny, like, I remember Sonny before I left to go to France, like, as a kid coming into the gym, he was like a 15, 16-year-old, and he could lift more weights than any of the players. He was that strong and powerful. And then for a kid who just had a smile on his face, and then I went away to France, and I came back and he's in the team now, and I thought, wow, here's a kid that's really developed and got so many attributes of such a special person, the way he carried himself, the way he played the game. And that's why we celebrate Sonny, like, because of, what he actually did for the club. But, like, he was certainly going to be a huge part of this club going forward. And it was, such a sad thing that, what happened.
It's easy to underestimate, I think, the effect that has on a playing group of all the factors that you might not even consider. The similar equivalent is Liverpool lost Diogo Jota last year, and then you look at their performances, certainly in the first half of the season and most of the Premier League, and it's just you those things have to be linked together. But what effect did that have on the playing group in that year, and how did you kind of deal with it?
Yeah, look, I mean, for me, I didn't have the relationship that the other players had, in particular the young ones, and also Ruben and Pricey. Well, Ruben had finished, but Pricey had a really good bond with Sonny. So I was able to sit back and, like, reflect and see what they were going through, and it was hard. Like, it crippled the club for that year, and even Ivan, the hurt that Ivan had. Was really hard. So, such a tragedy.
We had Liam Messam on a few weeks ago, who, in terms of institutional knowledge around the Chiefs, is sort of the walking encyclopedia of how that organisation runs. And I was sitting here thinking, is there anyone else in the joint currently that was there on day one like you are? Are you that walking encyclopedia around the Warriors of things like Sonny Fire and of the traditions and of the things that have come beyond that are important to impart and communicate to newcomers to the organisation? Yeah.
Look, I mean, there was a period I wasn't there for a while. Look, there's been, we've had some special people in the club, and there's special people there right now, that have been there for a long time. There's people that have been there before, like when I went away. So Daniel Floyd, our football manager, who probably has the most respect amongst the players and the players' partners around what he's all about. He's been, I don't know how long Dingo's been there for, but he's been there for such a long time. Laurie Hale, our kit man's been there for a long time. So those people were there around when Sonny was around, and I think Laurie was, and they've got a lot of knowledge around the club. So
it's crazy, those things, those sort of people that are in the change room. But often the metaphor I use is you look up at the night sky and the players are the stars, right? But guys like Laurie, the kit man, they're the blackness that fills the void in between, and they're just there.
Yeah. Oh, and those guys went through, COVID as well. What had to go through. Again, Peter Leach, someone he's probably been there from day one to now, like thick and thin.
In 2019, you were inducted into the NRL Hall of Fame, one of 4 Kiwis, along Mark Graham, Ruben Wiki and Benji Marshall. Is that sort of stuff, that acknowledgement, is that important to you?
Look, it's very, it's an honour, it's a proud moment, and I think it's a moment for, other people that have been around your career and in your life, that you get to celebrate with them. And I guess it's, something you're proud of for the Warriors and what you've done there, New Zealand Rugby League, and that you get that recognition, So, and along with, you look at Mark Graham, what he's done in the game, what he did in the game, and then doing most of your career in particular in the black and white jersey with Ruben, and then, you look at, the person Benji is, and, there's going to be more immortals, like Sean, and, I look at Simon Mannering and, Kieran Foran and and lots more Kiwis are going to have that put on them because they've done so much for the game. But it's also about the people that have supported you.
You and Simon Mannering are kind of synonymous in my mind with the Warriors. You reckon Simon would ever do a podcast?
Good question. Yeah, depends on who asks him. Yeah, I reckon if you got Cameron to ask him, or maybe Campo might. You get Campo to ask him.
Okay, now we know.
The oil we'd had is that it would be the last thing he'd ever.
The worst thing
do.
he'd ever imagine doing would be a podcast.
Yeah, good man, Simon.
I want to move into coaching chat now. So you cut your teeth coaching your club, the Point Chev Pirates, off the back of a sort of 13-year association with the Warriors. And you and Arwen went back to the club for senior prize giving, and there was nobody there. And you felt a responsibility to build the team back from the bottom division up.
Yep.
Is that kind of the start of the coaching journey? Yeah,
so we went to a game at Walker Park, and they got beaten by, it was like 100-0 or something. We said, we'll go back to the club and have a beer with the team and, see how they're going and how the club's going. The club was in a tough position, and there's some wonderful people at the Point Chev Club, and it's just tough times. It's a hard grassroots level, and I said to Owen, look, we should probably do something here. We've got time. We can, help out wherever we can. And I think we probably had about maybe 10 beers, 10 big bottles of Lion Red, and by the end of the night, we were coaching the team.
But that's no exaggeration, right?
And
you came through the grades, bottom division, second division, Fox Memorial.
Yeah, so we did the first 2 years, and then we sort of handed it over to some other people that were coming through, and very fortunate that this is how Mark Robinson, Ortex, got back involved, because Ortex, Mark's a Point Chev man, so he sponsored the team, and then they were able to, obviously financially help them and get them in a position where they could be real competitive. And I think they've won 6 Foxes in the last 10 years. So it's been a wonderful story for Point Chev to be able to do that, but they've only been able to do it off the back of really good support from, obviously, Ortex and Mark, but also the people that have still stayed in the club and kept it alive.
Neil Barnes is one of the All Blacks assistant coaches who's come from coaching in Taranaki, and he talks about the realities of coaching at grassroots level and how well that equips him for dealing with the professional game. Was it your experience as well?
Yeah, I thought I knew everything as a player, and in particular, you think you know everything. If you're going back to grassroots, you go, I'm going to go back to grassroots and kill this. I'm not coaching an NRL team here. I'm just coaching Point Chev and this will be easy. And it was probably harder than anything, because you got to do everything. You got to you got to be the manager, the kit man, and you do have people there, but when you can try to do it better than anyone else, you sort of try and help out as much as you can, and managing players,
who have real jobs and
so they ring you up 5 minutes before training and say, I can't make today, I've got to work, so you've planned training for this amount of players, and then it just doesn't happen, and you deal with it. And it taught me a lot of lessons, good lessons though, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I didn't do it to get into coaching, to coach there. I did it because me and Arwen wanted to help our club out. And again, it was, just a lucky time for me to be involved there. And I'm pretty proud of what that club's achieved.
That grassroots stuff is real life, eh? I imagine, because we're quite close with grassroots coaches in Hamilton and football, and I imagine it's things like, there's one thing not turning up to training, it's another thing like us saying, it's fine if you're not coming, just communicate that you're not turning up, and then they also don't communicate they're not turning up, and you've got a session planned for 20 people and 6 turn up, and you're like, okay, we've got to adapt.
Yeah, that's it. That's how you do it, and you got to do it on the run, and something in the NRL, sometimes you get caught like that. But I tell you one really good thing that we did at Point Chev, we always made sure that after a game, we had a good time. Back at the club rooms, we made sure the opposition came back to the club rooms, and, we made them feel welcome. We, put a feed on for them, and, few beers, and look, it just created real good culture.
It's a lost art. The club rooms. You grew up going through them. We grew up going through them. Not every kid now, particularly because they can bounce out and not even have to play club, realise the importance of bringing a community together, of seeing friends and family and grandkids and kids. To bring life to a club rooms is a really, I think, lost art in modern society.
Yeah, any sport, it's something that, it just brings real good culture and connection.
And first steps for Mark Robinson back into rugby league?
Yeah, it was.
Is it fair to say that was kind of the first step on the journey to him owning the Warriors?
Yeah, I reckon it was, yeah. I remember meeting Mark, me and Owen. It was Ken Rainsfield, the manager at the time, and he's a good mate of ours. Ken, a good mate of me and Owen's, but he's best mates with Mark, and he said, you need guys to go and meet Mark and he'll help you out with Point Chev. Mark's a Point Chev guy, but he's been away for 15, 20 years and that, and Owen's a real good wheeler and dealer. Like, he is the best. He's the best negotiator. He's a very successful businessman now because of that. And we had a beer with Mark, and Owen's rattled off all these numbers. Like, he's talking, I don't know, let's say to win a Fox, Owen says it's going to cost you 80 grand, 100 grand, whatever. And Owen's written up all these things. This is what this costs, this is what this costs. And we're thinking we might get a couple of grand out of Mark here, but Owen's shot for the mood and that. And then, Mark goes, I don't think I can give you that, but I'll give you 30. And we're like, holy shit. And then, I just said, Owen, you're the best. And then, so we got him in there and got him involved, and he loved it. He loved the environment. Like a lot of his family members are part of the club, and, he has that much passion for Point Chev, and the success that they've had, in particular the last 10 years. And then, next minute he's buying the Warriors.
Yeah. I want to sum up your coaching pathway. Let me know if I get anything wrong. So you worked as the Auckland Rugby League's development officer before returning to the Warriors in 2013 as their junior recruitment and pathway coach. That role led to the under-20s head coaching job in 2014. That first season, you won the Holden Cup. From there, you moved to coaching the Warriors New South Wales Cup reserve grade side in 2015-2016, took them to finals both seasons. Then you joined the NRL coaching staff as an assistant to Stephen Kearney in 2017, stayed on in various assistant roles under Todd Payton and Nathan Brown, and eventually stepped into the interim head coach role in 2022, which is quite a path. As you kind of said, you never had massive aspirations to be an NRL coach. You just wanted to coach. What was it like? Like that's summarizing a lot of years, but like when you actually got to the top, like, did you want to be there, and what was it like on that?
Look, it was just opportunities along the way, so being a development pathways coach in 2013, and then taken over from John Ackland in 2014 as a 20s coach, and then moving into an assistant. Then when Stephen Kearney came on board, who I've got a really good relationship with, and still do, he helps me out with the Kiwi team, and then going through that, and then COVID happened. When COVID happened, it was that was a really tough period for the club. And then Nathan Brown came on board, and Nathan Brown, he had his own staff that he lined himself up with, and I came home. Luckily enough, the club kept me on board here in New Zealand as a development coach. And then the following year, Nathan Brown's second year, he got me back on board as sort of to help them out a bit, an assistant role. And it was midway through that year when Browning decided he didn't want to commit to New Zealand the following year, pulled the pin, and the club asked me, Mark and Cameron asked me if I'd step in and be an interim for the rest of the year. And look, I thought being an interim was a good opportunity. Just like the club needed stability, and I had no desire to actually be the coach, like to take over. I just said, let's get us through this period, and because it was tough times that dealing with, on and off field, more off field stuff we had to deal with. I remember like living with Cameron was an eye opener for what he had to deal with. And then, but look, I really enjoyed that little period there. We didn't win too many games. We won a couple of games at home, but look, it was really just managing players. And I just remember at the time really having to, Sean was a big one for us. Like Sean was on the verge of, like pulling the pin, and And he was really close to it. And I just said to Sean when I took over, I said, look, Sean, I just want to get you back home and play a game. Play in front of our own crowd, really enjoy it, soak it up, and you'll enjoy it, you know. And luckily enough, we got back home and we had a good win in our first game, and hopefully it gave Sean a new lease of life. And then the announcement of Webby, who I'd worked with before when I was coaching the reserve grade team at the Warriors. Webby was the assistant coach under Andrew McFadden, so Webby's announcement came on board, which was really exciting for us, you know, because I knew what he was about, knew what he was going to bring, where he'd been. So, and then being able to work under Webby, look, he's just such a fantastic coach to work for.
When I spoke to Cameron George yesterday, because we spoke a lot about those COVID years with him on the podcast in great detail, like incredible stories which people hadn't really known about the difficulties. And I spoke to him about you and sort of keen to talk about you sort of living with him and stuff. But he said, you know, that first year you were away, well, if I go back, he said, like, the biggest thing about Stacey is that he loves his family and his 3 kids and his wife, and he's so close to his family. And so being away for them for that time, same for everyone, was incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
And then he kind of said that he knew that you needed to be back home that second year.
Yep.
And you kind of had, it was too long away and you had to be back with them. What, is that right? And can you take us there?
Yeah, look, I mean, it was tough for everyone. Like, Cameron was in New Zealand at the time when COVID first happened, and then a lot of it was unknown, really. It was an unknown period. Are you talking about the first year of COVID with?
Yeah. So first year you were there, right?
Yeah, first year. Yeah. So, everyone was going through a lot of emotional stuff and that. And, you know, look, I was very, Nathan Brown had his staff that he wanted, which I have, you know, a lot of respect for Brownie and what he wanted to do. And at the time, you know, like, he was the right man for the job. But I was very lucky that the club had given me the opportunity to come back to New Zealand and still be involved, in part of that setup. So, and then the following year, so I had a year back at home, and then the following year, Brownie got on the phone and Cameron got on the phone and said, Stace, you know, would you want to come back? I'd love to come back, you know. And my family my kids were sort of growing up a bit then, so I wasn't missing a lot of Saturday footy games or, you know, any of that stuff.
It puts you, rugby league or sport puts you in some unique positions. So you got a family. You never probably think you're going to be flatting with another middle-aged man. But then you find yourself. What was that like? Like, how long were you flatting with Cameron, and what did you guys get up to?
So it would have been just under a year. And
a long time, by the way.
just under a year. But we had a really neat setup. Like, I had the front of the house, he had the back. And then we'd always sort of have some people come and stay too, like Mark Robinson come and stay. Like, he was the one that was paying the rent, so
the landlord.
He had his room, and then Daryl Halligan was our kicking coach. So every Friday he'd come in, the stray dog. Yeah, he'd come for a little holiday, and then who else we had? Justin Morgan, who was assistant coach at the time. I think he got kicked out of his flat from his where to have him, and he come and bunked with us for a couple of months. But and Cameron had his family there for the first 3 or 4 months. Like, Emma and Stella Rose were living there, so, you know. And then I think there was probably a period of 6 where it was just us, and we're like, what are we doing tonight, Cameron? Where are we going, you know?
Well, I wanted to dig into the detail, because who's responsible for washing and dishes and cooking? Like, is it back to old school? You have Monday nights, I have Tuesday nights.
The chores on the fridge.
Is that how it worked?
Well, we only had one job where we thought was both, like, organising dinner was one thing, and most of the time it was
down the pub for a chicken parmesan
or a barbecue.
Yeah.
Barbecue. I remember the first time, actually, when Cameron cooked the barbecue, he goes, "How do you want your steak?" Like, you know, he fancied himself, and I said, "Oh, just medium, I guess." And he goes, "See those car keys? Pick them up, walk out the front door, get in your car, go to the pub, and ask for me. I only do well done."
Oh, really? He's gone the other way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he only cooks well done, Cameron. So, and
The other thing he said to ask about was Wednesday nights, because he said, like, always something would happen on Wednesday nights.
It was unreal what would happen. It was like clockwork. How he'd get the phone call, 6 o'clock. We'd be just sitting down on the back of the porch there and crack open a 4X Gold, and the phone would ring, and it'll be a player manager, and it was never good news. it was always like, this guy wants to go home, this guy wants this guy. It's like, the camera's like, oh my God, like, what are we doing here? What have we got myself into? And yeah, I think the only good phone call I ever remember getting was from Webby saying, yeah, I've got the job, I want the job. So, Wednesday night, honestly, it was just like, I mean, it was Reece Walsh, I think, was the time when he wanted to go home or he didn't want to come to New Zealand. Lots of little things that would happen.
And did it become a bit of a joke? Oh, here's the Wednesday call, grab us another beer.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Wednesday night was Wednesday afternoon, like always Wednesday, Saturday, whatever. It was like, who's going to get the beers tonight? Was it me or you? I said, well, I went to that wholesaler the other night. You go to that one this night.
It's a fascinating insight into what the CEO does as well for coaching staff too, right? Because it would be very rare that would intersect and you'd get a real day by day of what the CEO deals with.
Oh, his phone flat tack, like just going off. He's on the computer. He's working hard. But again, like with Cameron's persona, he just gets things done. I've never seen like a person, an operator, how he just, this is what we're doing. He's so clear on what he wants, and what he wants, he gets it done quickly.
So when that first home game starts to come on the horizon, his retelling of it is kind of not shuffled the draw, but had a preferred opponent to play that first home game. But are you starting to get really super excited about the prospect of playing in front of the home fans and leading the team?
Without a doubt. Look, the whole club coming back, obviously what Sean was going through, Tohu Harris as well, like, he was so homesick, he wanted to get home. And, we had players in our team that had, never been to New Zealand before, so, and then we'd had these young guys in our team that had been part of the team for a couple of years that had never been back to New Zealand. So we had a group of players wanting to go home for different reasons, but the whole build up to it, like, we did a Paul Fitty and all of that was really, really special. And yeah, I think we were down to play Penrith, but Cameron rejigged it to play the Tigers. So.
Puppet master, right? Can pull strings.
Yeah.
So, and then you slide into the assistant coaching role, which you've got now. What are your responsibilities? Like, what is your role?
Yeah, so they call me a special teams coach. So I sort of in between our attack and defence. So a lot of based around effort areas, our kick game, the opposition kick game, and so I work really close with Slade Griffin, our defence coach, around how we, navigate what they do to us when they kick the ball to us, how our backfield moves and all of that, and how we get on the front foot. And then work really close with Rich Agar, our attack coach. So I'm saying, going to Rich, this is what our kick game looks like this week. This is what we need to do to navigate their backfield and how we can score points on last plays. And so Webby brought this in. They had it at Penrith, this type of coach, and I love the role. Like it takes me away from like the whole game. I have a specific role, and the other two coaches have a specific role, and Webby does. He just makes sure that we all work together.
Are you? Feel free to tell me yes or no. But is there a little Stacey Jones little trick playbook that you know what I mean, that you work on season? And it might. Again, to go to the All Blacks analogy, we had Kieran Reid talk about the line out in the World Cup final in 2011, which is a set play. They've rehearsed it multiple times, but you only bring it out maybe once a season.
Oh, okay.
Have you got a couple of those up your sleeve?
Yeah, I do have a couple. And I try and get it across the line. Well, Rich Agar, like, he's got the set piece one going. Like, he'll always come up with something little. But if it's a kick plan or something like that, we'll always try and maybe, if we can expose the opposition, there's always a couple that we'll come up with, but you can only use it once a year. The other team go, it won't work.
Not as many grubber kicks as there used to be.
No,
little chip and chase.
Yeah, the teams just work so hard. So, like, if a team puts a kick in for us, my job is to, how do we stop it? How do we stop the chasers coming through? And like, there's so much detail that goes into it now, and like we do that much analysis around that sort of stuff that we got to make sure we've got everything covered.
Is that like coding the games and that?
Yeah, we do a lot of coding. So we all have our different, after a game, we all have our different buttons we got to push and put that there. And yeah, there's a lot of time. Most of our time is in front of a computer. But,
which part of it do you enjoy the most? Like, is it the analysis and the coding? Is it the actual like interaction with the players? Is it just being part of a team? Or?
What I enjoy most is part of the team. Like, it's such a good feeling being part of a team, travelling, and I know it can be tough when you go into airports and that, but when you're part of a team that's got a good culture, good connection, and the whole club, it makes it so much more special. When you're playing at home and you have a win, you see all the fans and your family and friends coming into the gymnasium to enjoy that moment, and you go, wow, like, we're here all the time. We get to experience it all the time, but where some people only get that little bit of it, and you go, how lucky we are to be here.
Talk to us about the fans and about Mount Smart, because that, since COVID, just seems to have ratcheted it right up. Getting to experience that every 2 weeks must be, wins and losses, but the wins particularly must be amazing.
Oh, it's special. Like, in particular, when you play at home on a Friday night and you have a good win, and then your weekend's just set up. Like, you go down the Point Chev Bowling Club. So, we look, again, are very fortunate to be in that position, in particular with this group.
I imagine it's different. When you're a player and you're on the field, you perhaps block out a little bit of that background noise. But when you're a coach and you're entrenched in the sound and the noise, is that a different feeling to when you were a player?
Yeah, because you when you're a player, you obviously, like you said, you block it out. You just focus on what's on the field. But you can feel it. The players can feel the energy, what the crowd bring them, and that. But when you're a coach, you sit in the box and I think we're a group, a coaching group that likes to have a laugh. Like, Webby will sit in the box and say something about this person over there, and he loves it. Like, he loves seeing people so passionate, and it makes him feel good, and then someone does something funny on the field, he'll have a laugh, but try and make sure he's not on camera, and, we're a group, and the coach brings it, but we're a group that likes to have fun.
Who's getting the messages on the field and running it on? Because are they...
It's Slade
Right.
Griffin, he wears our blue shirt, but he can't run on as much as he can anymore. He's the one that's sort of bringing the messages back to the box about, hey, this player's, he's done, he needs to get off the field, or he's going really well, keep him on there. So, because
I always find that interaction fascinating. If a coach is like screaming down the Craig Bellamy screaming down the thing is probably a bad example, but the guy who's at the other end of it having to interpret what he's trying to say, like that comms must be really important.
It is, and sometimes I feel like even Webby would say it. Like, sometimes the messaging is a waste of time. Like, I'm giving this message to the player, and the player's going, freaking, I know. Make your tackles. Yeah, no, I'm trying. Don't kick the ball out on the full. Yeah.
Thanks. I feel like that culture of fun you're talking about comes across in the sort of unscripted moments. So there's the Cameron George, on the big screen, and he's having a drink and he's doing that motion, and it's the Jason Paris and Cameron George, One New Zealand announcement. It's kind of like that. You're not trying too hard. It's just that's who you are, right?
That's it, and you got to be. You can't be someone you're not. And the whole group, the only nerds in our club, the guys that we go, is our high performance, our sports science guys like that. They're different.
They speak a different language.
But it actually rubs off on the players. Yeah. The players they know that all of us staff enjoy a beer. Webby says, boys, like, after a game, it's a 6-day turnaround. There's beers in our change room. That's for me. I'm going to have 10.
And over a season with a club, I imagine it's easier to build that culture. But switching lens to the international game, where you've got a truncated, more condensed period of time, is it harder to build that team culture, or easier because you're playing for a bigger entity in the country?
It's different. It's different. Being the head coach, like for me, I find it easy as far as the people I got around me. And I know, again, going back to Webby relies a lot on people around him to help him, and I learn a lot from him, from how he operates and whatever he does. And I feel that if you've got the right people around you that support you, then your job is easier, and with this current group of Kiwi players that we've got now, it's really player driven. And I make that happen. I'd say, boy, this is your team. I remember as a player, I felt like, it's players, we drive it, we support the coach, but we've got to be the ones that drive it. And, I'm very lucky I've got, James Fisher-Harris, Joe Tapani, Isaiah Papali'i, Jerome Hughes, who hasn't played the last couple of years, but I've got a group of players there, Chance Luka-Klokstad, who's been part of the team, that drive all the energy, the connection, and everyone has their own different roles around the group, so very lucky there. And then I've got staff like Stephen Kearney, who's our leadership person, who won a World Cup as a coach, so he's a real good sounding board for me within the group. He said, Stacey, why don't you look at this, or you think about that, and I'll go to him and ask him questions. And then I've got Nathan Kalis, who's our defensive coach with Steve Price, not the Steve Price who coaches at Cronulla. So I've got really good staff because their defensive mindset, I have no desire to try and coach defence. I understand it, but I leave it to them to deliver it and go through all of that. So I'm really lucky. I'm attack-minded. I use Kieran Foran, used him to help us out to form a game plan around an attack. So our head of performance is the Warriors head of performance, who I know really well and is really organised, Balin Couple. So people around you are the ones that make your job easier.
The decision, we sort of jumped past the decision to actually take on the Kiwis role because you've got a full-time job. You're away a lot. Your plate is pretty full, all right. Was it a tough decision to decide to apply and step up?
Well, I'll tell you, the people that told me to apply was Cameron and Webby. They were like, mate, you should do it. And it's not, it is time consuming when it's on, but it's not now. Like, I'll probably have 2 or 3 meetings a week or phone calls around different things. And again, when you got people that know what they're doing, your job's easier. So Nadine Conlon, who's our manager, logistically, she's got everything sorted, I just got to, maybe I'll catch up with a player maybe when we're playing them that weekend and see how he's going, or get on the phone and track players and selectors meetings and that once a fortnight. So we've got all that organised, and sort of being in the role now for 2 years, I think I've got it fairly organised. But at the end of the day, we're not going to know our team until a week out from when we come into camp because of such a long NRL season.
It seems to me like the perfect combination, really, an assistant coach who then is the international head coach, because you're connected inside that group with so many players, which you wouldn't be otherwise. You'd be on the outside trying to get in.
Oh, look, I don't think, like Michael Maguire did it. He was a head coach of the Tigers, and then he coached the Kiwis. I think that would be too hard, really hard. Like the amount of time, I just remember Madge on the phone, when he was coaching the Tigers and trying to get a team up for a test match, because that's ongoing. When you're an NRL coach, that's big. That's a lot of time, all the time. And you got to, when you're in the Kiwis camp, you just focus on that. I've taken my Warriors cap off now, and I'm just there solely for that, and you need to be. So that would be really hard. And I'm very fortunate that I can be an assistant and do that role as well.
This year, we've got a World Cup coming up.
Yeah.
How are we going to go?
Oh, look, off the back of last year was a really good campaign. Again, the core players that we've got, and now with this new Origin eligibility rule.
What is the new rule?
So if you've got Kiwi heritage, Kiwi parents, and you were born in Australia before the age of 13, you can play Origin, and then you can make yourself available for New Zealand.
Okay.
Where in the past, if you made yourself available for Origin, you couldn't play for New Zealand. You had to play for Australia. So that's opened up now. So I think it's going to be real beneficial, more so in 5-6 years' time, when a lot of these kids can, that are coming through our system, through their system, can come and play for New Zealand. So at the moment, there's a handful, like Kalen Pong is a prime example who wants to play for New Zealand. And that's a luxury to have, that we can have someone like him available for us now. So,
and a chance to reconnect with the country too, for some of those that might never have really felt a strong affinity or a pull here, or felt a pull here but had a blockage as well.
100%. And like on the other side, like you got Casey McLean, so who grew up born in New South Wales, born in Sydney, went through all the Origin under-17s, under-19s pathway for New South Wales, but wanted to play for New Zealand. So he gets to do that now. He gets the opportunity to play for New South Wales, where he grew up, for supporting them. but can also play for the Kiwis. But, Casey, a wonderful kid, he decided I'll forego Origin, and I just want to play for Kiwis. I want to play for my parents, so he gets to do both now if he wants.
Just on Origin, coming to New Zealand, what's that going to do for rugby league in this country?
Oh, yeah, wow. I mean, the game's big here already, It's going to go to another level, I feel like. I mean, I don't support either team. I love the
Really?
game. Nah.
Have you ever been to it?
No.
I figured if you're in the game, you must have either been to a game or have a strong feeling for one or the other.
No, I don't.
Wow.
I don't. Well, I have a strong feeling for whoever's playing, because, when Campo was playing, I support Queensland, Pricey, Queensland. I'm a bit tight at the moment because KP is Queensland, you got Barney, New South Wales, so... I just, And when I was playing, when I was playing, I was like, mate, I just like to see them bash each other up. So great concept. Yeah, it's going to be massive when it comes here.
With our One New Zealand connection, our thing is connection, and we always ask our guests about, we like to ask about group chats, and I wondered with the Kiwis, when you select a new squad, there will be some players who weren't in the previous squad. Do you start a new group chat, like a WhatsApp group chat with everyone in it for each new series?
That's not my role. That's Nadine's role. And I think one of the trainers last year who moved on, he didn't do it. He kept the group chat going, and there was comments coming back, I'm not on the team or whatever. So, that was a couple of tough ones here, but we shut it off fairly quickly.
On the flip side, are you the kind of coach that'll pick up the phone and ring a player when you're going to name them in maybe their first ever team?
Yeah, there's no real announcement around it, I think, and you don't, it's a tough, you got to find out if they're available first, because a lot of players aren't available for whatever, they might be getting married, or club wants them to have an operation at the end of the year. So, I will always ring up and say, you're going to be in the team or you're not in the team.
Are those the ones... Well, I guess the ones you're not in the team are the difficult ones, but the ones to tell a player that you're going to come into the Kiwis for the first time, are they some of the best phone calls you could possibly make?
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. They're such a cool moment to ring a player and say, you're going to be part of the squad. So very, very special for them. And also I find it very, honoured to ask them. And then you got the other side of it too, where you're telling a player that, unfortunately, there's no room for you in this team. So they're the tough ones, but you got to do it.
You're a private guy, but I wondered if you'd let us inside the family dynamic a little bit, and feel free if you don't want to go too far. But, you've got your wife and you've got your 3 adult children now. Your wife, Rochelle, has obviously been the sort of support alongside. Can you tell us about how she's given you stability or what she's brought to your life?
Super stability. And, the way she grew up with her life, and she's a school teacher. She works really hard. She's a primary school teacher, and I see her. I feel like she works harder than us. I know she does work harder than us. I feel very fortunate with the job I do, but a school teacher and that. And then one of my daughters is a nurse, and she's works in in the ICU unit at Auckland Hospital. And I see her come home, and I'm thinking, man, I'm lucky here with what I do and see what they do, and really proud of what they do, and that's the stability, the connection that they bring, and then my other daughters, she's just started radiography, and in the health system, man, they work hard. She works 7-8 days a week in a row, sometimes 12-hour shifts, and I'm going, man, I got a good job. And then I got my son who's doing a plumbing apprenticeship, and he's still trying to play a little bit of footy, just plays local footy, but he works all day, gets up at 6 o'clock in the morning, gets home at 4, 5 o'clock, and then goes to training, gets home at 8:30, and I'm thinking, man, I got it real lucky.
Yeah.
So I have a really neat group. Our family's really tight, and we do a lot together.
You get up north to the family farm as well?
Yeah, not as much as I like to. Every Christmas we're up there, and I try and get up there during a bye, and always try and time it with to go and have a beer with the old man down at his local pub and have a couple of bets on the horses. We love our horses, and it's such surreal. I love it up there. I just think it's so peaceful, the far north, and every time I drive back home, I'm like, man, I wish I could stay up here, and you never know, eventually that could be a place where we could go and, because we go up there every Christmas, we're always up there.
And there's still a family connection active playing in the club with your niece on the women's side as well.
Yeah, my brother's daughter, Leishon, she is part of the women's team, so yeah.
Is there much crossover between the two? Because there's talk that they're going to be the ones that lift the first trophy on grand final day because they kick off before you.
Yeah, that will be cool, eh? But yeah, no, not a lot of crossover because their season doesn't really start till mid-May, and they train in a different part than where the men's do. And yeah, but look, when there's functions and that on, there's a bit of crossover. So the women's game's just gone next level. It's huge. It's awesome.
Must be a great addition for the club though as well to, I guess, build that community aspect of having the junior teams and the pathways seems to be the big step that the club's taking at the moment.
Our pathways now is unreal. Look, if we're, dare I say, we should be winning comps very soon with what the investment that we've got going in through our pathways, men and women's, and they're doing a great job. And the investment that, Tex and Mark Robinson that they put into the club and the way it's run, look, it's huge.
Current day, we're recording this after the win over Melbourne Storm away. It's been like an incredible start. And then a bit of a wobble, and then it's kind of like I actually picked the win. And I said,
I said that.
I think they're going to do it. Where are we at? What are you thinking of the season? Where are we at?
Look, we got off to a really good start, and it was a frustrating preseason. I will say it because we didn't have everyone on board. Like, we didn't have Luke Metcalf, we didn't have Mitch Barnett, so two of our sort of, mainstay players, experienced players, and we had little niggles here and there, and we had guys coming back from representing football late in the piece. So pre-season was disrupted, and we didn't play well in our pre-season games, so it was a little bit of an unknown for us going into the first game. And then, look, it just clicked there, played really well, played a nice simple game of footy against the Roosters, and then backed it up against Canberra, and then went to Newcastle, and we got Newcastle when, they were going good too, and they'd lost Kalen and Dylan, and we had Barney come back, and we got a good win away in Newcastle, which is really hard to do. And then, I thought we played really tough against the Tigers. We took it to them, and we just had a period there where we just lost our way, and to their credit, they're playing good footy, and then disappointment Cronulla, and then I just thought on the weekend was a turning moment for this group. Like, Webby spoke about the whole week about connection, culture within the group. Haven't been to Melbourne and, playing for the Michael Moore Trophy that Melbourne think it's theirs. And, rightly so. They play for it more than probably what we would, but we said, let's go there and take it off them. And the group bought into it, and it was a really big moment for this club, and hopefully it can be that moment that we can look back at and go, hey, that was it.
I've sat here for nearly 2 hours not wanting to ask the question.
He's got to ask the question. I knew you were going to ask the question. You're going to ask the question.
Is it our year?
Look,
don't ask. I've asked it 3 times, and 3 times I think I've blown it. I've blown it for the Wars fans.
Yeah. Look, all we can hope is, this competition is so hard, so tough, and all you need is, 1 or 2 players have an off game, a bit of luck go against you, or vice versa, a bit of luck go for you, and you just got to put yourself in a position to win it. We got to set ourselves up to keep ticking the boxes, keep winning games, win the games that you should win. But I don't know what those games are because the competition's so tough, and you find yourself in a position at the end of the year, then anything can happen.
Home straight now, Stacey. Last couple. We are dressed by Barkers, so every episode we're in Barkers gear, and we love to ask our guests for a piece of fashion advice or a grooming tip, or something that you see that you like. Have you got anything?
You're asking the wrong person. No, I'm a track pants, t-shirt guy, shorts guy.
And that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. We've got some Barkers trackies for you, actually.
Very good trackies, actually.
Cool. Yeah. Barkers used to sponsor us way back in the day.
Well, maybe they'll come back on board.
I sort of want to wrap up. This has been such an epic. Thank you so much for coming in and spending so much time and sort of reliving, what an incredible career. But where you are now, the Kiwis coach, you know, from that sort of 17-year-old kid, could you ever have imagined, like, it wasn't kind of like, it was never the plan, right? No. It wasn't like, I'm going to be an incredible rugby league player and then I'm going to be a coach. It was kind of just these stepping stones kind of like connected you to this point. So do you ever reflect on where you are and where you've come from and what a sort of just an incredible ride it is?
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm very fortunate and lucky to be in a position, like being in this position where, you know, as a player, what happened, then when I finished, and then, you know, going to Point Chev, you know, then what was the next step and that next step, and then, you know, just sort of navigated around that. I never said, yep, this is what I want, and then every day's different, you know, every moment's different, you know. I don't know what's going to happen next week, you know. I don't know how we're going to train tomorrow, whatever. So every moment's different in life, and what's around the corner is what's around the corner. But I feel very privileged that I've been able to be in a position to live the life that I have, in particular around, you know, rugby league.
I fell in love with the show Ted Lasso, and you know, it's a show about a coach that leads with no ego, really, with empathy and belief in their people. And I've done my research on you, and I know you're a humble leader, despite the achievements that you had on the field of play as well. Is that kind of art imitating life? Like, is that the sort of coach that you are?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just be you. You know, don't be someone you're not, but learn along the way. Like, I've learnt so much, in particular the last sort of 3 or 4 years as a coach from Webby and the other assistant coaches, Rich Agar, who's very experienced around the game, and a good young coach coming through, Slade Griffin, and we've got a really good coach in our pathways. He's effectively a assistant coach who was our New South Wales Cup coach, David Tunga-Tator. So we've got a really good bunch of coaches that we all sort of can rub off on each other. And getting back to your Ted Lasso, we used to call Webby that Web Lasso. Yeah. So, look, just for me, don't change, don't try not to be someone you're not. Like, and I think the players respect that. And look, I don't try and be too technical with what I do, because I know technically I'm not perfect in any of that, but I know for me, the game is simple, and keep it simple for the players. And that's my philosophy around when I'm with the Kiwis. Like, I'm coaching a bunch of players here that are world class. You know, all I've got to do is just tweak a couple of things and make sure that they want to play for the black and white jersey.
Well, we feel really privileged to have this chat. I know you don't do a lot of these. I know you won't see the response because you're not on social media, but our listeners will absolutely love hearing from you. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing so much of your time. I've absolutely loved it. And good luck for this season, and let's go.
What a way to kick off the One New Zealand partnership. Thank you so much for your time.
No, awesome, guys. Pleasure. Loved it.
There are some people in life you never want to forget. But life happens. People get old, memories fade, and then one day it's too late to ask the questions that matter most. That's why we created Reflections, to capture the magic before it slips away. At Reflections, our award-winning interviewers sit down with your loved ones in person with time, care, and curiosity, and capture their life story in their own words. The result is a beautifully crafted family documentary, something you and your loved ones will return to, share, and treasure for generations. One day, you'll want to hear that laugh again. We make sure you always can. Reflections, keeping family stories beautifully alive. Find us at reflections.life.